Recording. Okay. And then to answer the question on how I've been connecting with my community recently, I'd say that for this week in particular, I've been doing some like traveling and like visiting universities. So I felt like since I was a bit busy, it was harder for me to connect with like my friends like one-on-one to give them updates. So I was kind of just using a classic close friends story and just like sending my updates there, and I felt like that helped me like speak to my more immediate community and kind of share my thoughts there, but also have like the camaraderie like going on. But yeah. So I'll popcorn it to someone else, and because this person is directly in front of me on the camera, I'll popcorn it to Charles.
Hey everyone, I'm Charles. AC now. I would say this is probably like top of the list of how I'm trying to connect with community. I feel like I don't know if this is like connecting for like workout classes. Like doing Zumba with a bunch of strangers and yoga with a bunch of strangers. Like, nice job. That feels really like we're all in this together. I'll popcorn into the
I'm Dee. I use station. Lately, I've been connecting to community. I feel like by making deals with people, like cooking with my friends stuff, or shopping, like but contributing something. That feels like it's been very, very, there's no like better community than like everybody sharing. I will talk to my friends to
Hello, like you guys from the departments that will involve
Hello, my name is Yasmin. I use she, her pronouns, and I've been not great at connecting to my community the past week just because I've had midterms and that's like literally taken every ounce of energy from me. But something that I've been trying to do just to like keep connections in my life is like if I'm listening to music and like a song reminds me of one of my friends or something, I'll send it to them and I'll be like, you should listen to this. And it's just like I don't know, it's just like this reminds me of you kind of thing. It too.
I'm Larry. Use he and pronouns. I'm a member of JUST. In terms of like connecting with my community, I would say like just yesterday, we had a community service. So like being out there serving the community, whether it's like food, uh, hygiene, clothes, like so just being connected in that way. So yeah, that's the way I would say that connected with my community as of right now. And sorry for that.
You're totally fine. Hi everyone, my name is Bianca. I use they, she pronouns. As of lately, my big flight has been trying to bridge work and community organizing. And so I've been having a bunch of conversations with community members and coworkers trying to figure out how we can better bridge the gap between students who graduate and then don't get involved in organizing or can't sustain that with a full-time job, or people who are already in the workplace and struggling a bit and trying to have conversations that fit in with that. And then I will talk to Reed. Hi everybody, my name is Reed.
And I've been staying connected to my community. Well, I got to catch up with a friend who I haven't like. That was just really nice. He's a very like grounding person. So it just sort of like reminded me of like, I don't know, who I am, and like being around him is like just really good for me, I guess. And so that was really nice. And I attended a vigil for Aaron Bushnell, which was also really powerful and moving. And sort of trying to get back in touch with my Muslim community as Ramadan approaches, and trying to figure out how I'm going to contribute in the coming month. So yeah, and then I'll popcorn to popcorn somebody on Zoom.
Yeah.
Take your pick.
Did you say Hannah?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Hey everyone. I'm Hannah. I use she, her pronouns. I've been connecting to my community by going to like random volunteer opportunities, which is really fun. I recommend it if you haven't tried it. I volunteered at the Arnold last weekend. It was very weird, but really entertaining. So, you get to meet some cool people. Oh, I will popcorn it to Grace.
Hi everyone. My name is Grace. I use they, them pronouns. And in terms of connecting to my community, I feel like lately, just by like, yeah, just as I've been like going to protests and stuff, I've been trying to like, just like make sure I'm like saying hi to everyone I know, just to kind of like build some like new friendships, which has been really great. There's also like one this weekend, and some of my friends who like haven't been able to get out to any actions were able to come out. So that was really nice, just kind of like yeah, like just like especially like as spring is coming, just like physically like being in spaces and trying to like maintain and build new friendships and connect other people has been really good. And yeah, I will popcorn it to Douglas.
Hey everyone, my name is Douglas. I use he, him pronouns. The way I've been connecting with my community as of recently, I've been getting Morgan and Lauren together on Thursday. Well, I come to their house on Thursdays and we watch Love is Blind, and we talk about the people on Love is Blind. And that's what's been helping us build community. And I think we're saying if they come to Columbus, we might be on their next. Who knows? So please support us. Who else hasn't gone? I'll popcorn it to Indigo.
Yes, hello. Yeah, Indigo. I go by he, him, or GJ. And I'll be there in a few minutes. Sorry, I can't really hear that well. So I'm trying to listen, but I'm in the car, so yeah. I'll say more in a few minutes when I'm there.
Yeah, you're good. Drive safe.
Could I choose someone else?
Yeah, how about Dan?
Dan, if you're able to introduce yourself. If not, we can pass it on to the 614 number we have in the chat. I'm not sure who that is, but feel free to announce who you are.
No.
Yeah, that's okay. Oh. Dan, I saw you unmuted. You're welcome to go ahead.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me okay now?
Yep.
All right. It's Leanne. And I don't know what the prompt was, but I just wanted to show up and find out more about the book club and see what y'all are doing.
Yeah, so the prompt was, how have you been connecting with your community recently?
I feel like I've just been showing up recently to things that have been going on within our community and educating myself more, being more aware of those that I am surrounded with. Um, and just, I guess, just increasing my awareness for those that I'm sharing space with.
Yeah, Morgan, if you want to choose someone in the room, and then if the person that's calling in later like is able to unmute. Oh,
Hi, sorry, I thought I spoke, but clearly I did not unmute myself. My name is Leanna, and I'm actually a Palestinian living here in the States. And I moved here like within the last 10 years. I'm kind of new in the country. And I've been, of course, at all the demos. That's how I've been connecting to the community. And I was just intrigued by the title of this meeting, the Black Panther movement, and how it relates to the liberation of Palestine. And that's why I'm here, just to learn more about that.
yeah, thank you for coming. Okay, Morgan, you can call someone that's in the physical room since from the Zoom we can't exactly see who.
Cool. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Madison. I build, was it building or creating?
Either or how you've like been connecting with your community.
I've been trying, I work at a local college, and I've been really trying to connect students with activism or encourage, or like, not, I would say like violence, but just like more, social or intersectional thinking, and really, it's a really small college, so trying to also just give them and give them more spaces to like interact and meet one another, and especially for like the collaboration across areas. And outside of my job, I am going to trying to do that I'm like I'm not really to things that aren't necessarily out of my comfort zone, but it's especially to meet people, especially
Hello, my name is Tony.
Oh, how have you been like connecting to your community recently?
Been connecting in a myriad of ways. Outside my job, it's my privilege. Trying to connect.
Name, pronouns, and then how have you been connecting with community recently?
I'm Ramon. I use he, him pronouns. I've been connecting with right. And sure, I'm trying to city event and just wherever there are people, I'll try to be. So I've been showing up.
Hey y'all, we're doing introductions right now, so if y'all want to say your name, pronouns, and then how you've been connecting with community recently.
And maybe real quick, just as a reminder, maybe try to speak up a little bit because there's a bit of an issue between translating in person and on Zoom, if that's okay.
My name is Dylan. Been really trying to push my grown food and flowers, being interconnected and gardening and politically share things.
Yeah, my name is Indigo. I agree with what you said, honestly. Yeah, obviously excited to hear thoughts on the reading or the discussion.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. I think that's everybody. So I guess it's time to start talking about the book. I'll pass it to Bianca to get started.
Yeah, well, I think it'd be a good idea if maybe we could talk about how we felt about the book in general, the things we liked about it, things we connected to, maybe things that we feel we should be critical of.
Maybe it would be good to also say our names again
Yeah,
before we
that'd be
I know some
So my name is Bianca. Would anyone like to kick us off, or if not, I'd be happy to do so.
A quick one. Age, I think it's getting that, I think 17 or whatever. Like had a list of all the people who there's like 2 panels of the martyrs essentially. Yes. I find it very profound how that list so many names that we keep like with us, our ancestors, and
something my name is Reem, by the way, for anybody who's been recently. Something I feel like I connected to a lot with this book is that I feel like the way people talk about the Black Panther Party right now is a little bit like idealistic, and to hear them about how they encountered similar issues that we do in organizing today, and how like it wasn't just an immediate, the community came together and collectively resisted, was really powerful. Because I think there's a little bit of an oversimplification, like you see how powerful and like national the Black Panthers were, and it was really eye-opening to see the amount of struggle that went into building it up to this moment. And it really also showed the possibility of us like creating that power again, and maybe even like surpassing that level of power in our organizing. So I thought that was really, really eye-opening and like reassuring in ways.
Just to connect both of these points, I think that a lot of our radical history has not been shared. So if we think about what's happening in Palestine right now, we've been having difficulty tapping all the names of all the martyrs. So it's very important to document, and even in creative ways like a graphic novel, those voices that may have been lost. And just in general, trying to revisit our radical history and use that to kind of give us insight on what we're trying to do today. Because oftentimes I feel like when organizing, it becomes like something happens, like Point Pro, and you feel like you have to start again, but that's not true. We have a lot of stuff that history is built on. It's just about having access to that history and being able to share that and think about it with one another. If no one else has any thoughts, we can maybe bring up one of the discussion questions, if that's okay. All right, so we talked a lot about in our planning how key figures, historical figures are often made the face of a movement. So we were wondering during your reading, what influence might there be with key figures representing a larger body and the dangers of criticism that might come along with facing those revolutionaries?
I guess.
Oh, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but could you say your name again?
Oh, yes. My name is Duncan.
Just one thing to learn is that it minimizes lesser known involved and issue. I disincentivize certain people to participate. I've had a handful of people say, well, you know about something. First of all, I never said I was. And second, it was just it's pretty rude and ignorant of my past struggles. I think it's at the very least mildly considered to problematic in this way.
In a way, like, because we create these monuments to these like past revolutionaries, it serves as a disconnect. Like, I don't think the world were like more communal. I don't think us like lauding key figures would be problematic per se, but like it becomes that way because the world that we currently live in serves like it separates us further from that versus humanity as it's making that the experience of it. Remember that it's like if we feel like these people like so separate and that like these were once in a lifetime people and like they can possibly be us, then you it's kind of like throwing your hands up, like it's an easy excuse rather than like doing the work to like model some of the actions that they did. So, Madison, I think I look at this question less as like the impact of like the people that we try to like take our heads or like judgment of, and like the people who did that work that are remembered, especially like women and Black LGBT members are not remembered in the Black Panther Party, and were at some points like excluded from higher leadership, and that is, I think it's very interesting because that's a pattern that we see a lot in all of these most like revolutionary groups or activist groups. So I think it makes it very easy to say that the issue of gay rights is not Black rights matter, because look at all of these people that we have as the same as Black activists, and we don't prop them up on like an equal. That's something that I was definitely like, thinking about. It's a book that's like touch on it, but I think if we like when we see like the Black Party like in that image of our mind, Black Panther Party, and like the images that we see in like modern media, that's a really good.
Yeah, Larry, I was just gonna say for me, like what I think of is like if you have like one key figurehead, then I feel like, you know, obviously I think it makes it a little bit easier for somebody to like try to take down that leader of the group, like a government or like a state entity. You know, like that's exactly being like, you know, Brett Hampton with the Black Panther Party of Chicago. In terms of like the aspect for like key figures to represent like a larger body, like I agree with like a lot of the sentiments, from what like people were saying, especially regarding like I know like Elaine Brown, she was also like a very prominent Black Panther Party member. Even took over for at a time when he was like incarcerated. But like, you know, you hear about George Jackson, you hear about Fred Hampton, but like, what about other? So I definitely feel that. But yeah, I think even when you look at like MLK and somebody like who did the work, you know, a lot of that back, like organizing and mobilizing, a lot of that, especially within SNCC, was mostly done by a lot of Black people. So, and I think that, like you said, that you know, at times like people forgotten about. But I think that like when we talk about key figures, I think that was like kind of make more of a risk. Like that anchor really is on them to be targeted very easily. That's what I think.
From a literary perspective, like, you know, there's a story here and it has main characters. So there's sort of like in read books like this, like you know, movies that have come out or are coming out about members of the Black Panther Party is actually kind of crazy. I watched Judas and the Black Messiah recently. And I think it's interesting the way like our media and like, you know, like even books and literature like take real you know, things and like separate main characters out of them and sort of erases like the nuance of like the interpersonal relationships and like, you know, it sort of creates this narrative of like, oh, it couldn't have happened without this one person or these few people. And so sort of like kind of romanticize it. I don't know if that's a word, but it does sort of also can create this idea in people's minds of like, I want to organize to be a celebrity. I want to organize so people remember me. I want to organize so my memory can be honored instead of like really doing what the Black Panthers were actually doing, which is investing in their community. Like, I don't think that many of them were thinking about the movies that were going to be made when they died or the books that were going to be written when they died. But in honoring them and creating like main characters out of this party, it sort of does have that implication, like sometimes creating a false impression of like what you should be organizing for, like everybody's importance in a movement. I saw you had your hand up.
Was somebody wanting to say something in the chat? In the Zoom?
Yeah, so I definitely like that point, and I think for me what came to mind was the digital aspect of it and how both on two ends people are able to rise in like this like era of like hyper visibility and suddenly be like on the brink of gaining a lot of like social media quote like clouts and then taking ideas that like people have like expanded on like in the past in other forms or maybe like less visible formats and take it in like whichever direction is best suited like in the moment. And I feel like that definitely can give people kind of like a power high almost and maybe like a push to perform in like a certain aspect. And I feel like I've definitely have been reading a lot about people who are highly engaged but unable to engage in the same like hyper visibility because of the same like danger that their work like entails, and they don't have like the safe like the promise of safety that others who are like more willing to do so have. And yeah, I don't know, that I think I've just been thinking a lot of like the social media aspect of it and people who can rise and like be like key figures in like their own right. But I don't know, yeah, that's where my direction is going. I don't know if someone else in the Zoom chat had an idea.
Yeah.
All right, now we go.
Just a quick thing that I was going to say going off of that is like, especially just reading kind of the ins and outs of the like COINTELPRO like stuff that was like used against the Black Panthers. Like it is like, I mean, that was just like super wild to read and like to like learn more about. And like every time I learn about it more, it like continues to be really like just like hard to process, I feel like. And yeah, I feel like it especially is like, and this isn't even like a critique of like particularly like social media stuff, but it is just like seeing how deep their infiltration they were willing to go with their infiltration. It was like hard to imagine almost in a like landscape where like so much is on social media and like Just because I feel like so much stuff is just like out in the open, and like just like the like lengths they had to go to like infiltrate was like really crazy, and like I feel like it's like hard to even imagine like dynamics working on that depth right now, but I don't know.
Like a quick note on that too, I know that like those efforts still continue today, like maybe not as we know about the thing that kind of level, but like local police forces being involved in organizing is still very common. A friend of mine camped out about a year ago at the Top City Summit, and the like, night before the action, the people that were hosting a bunch of folks were like, oh yeah, like they don't understand and whatever. So, the next morning, like there were like 10 cops there, there to like either pick them off or like send them to prison. So I don't know, it's definitely, I think, interesting to consider also how the like social media, digital world almost like hyperspeed not only like our access to information or access to our but states access to us and use their ability to well.
Can I bring up an additional question that you made me think of? Surveillance has changed and also stayed the same since the Black Panther Party happened. So I'm wondering what changes you may have noticed, or maybe personal experience you might have had with surveillancing, and how you see similarities or differences between what the Black Panther Party experienced. Yeah, I'm sorry. So how has like surveillancing changed or stayed the same since the inception of the Black Panther Party? And maybe that can tie to your personal experiences or just other themes of surveillancing that you noticed in the book.
I guess I think the way surveillance has changed recently is that we're surveillancing ourselves. Like in my phone, I'm tracking the books I read. I have my location on there. Like I'm narrating like things that happen in my life, like my close friend story, and like, you know, I'm sort of like willingly offering up all this information instead of it having to be sought out. Like by just following another person, you can almost become a part of their life. Like, you know, and like a lot of these, you know, existing publicly online, like you have memories of things other people went through and you weren't even there. I remember you posting about this thing that you went through, and now that's in my memory forever, even though I've never spoken to you. I was not there, and we're on like opposite sides of the world. And so a lot of the way surveillance has changed is that it's almost you should be honored. You should feel honored that you're being surveillanced, that people care about every single second of your life. And that makes you want to start to offer it up more and more. We used to be a little bit more private in the things that we shared, but because there's a sort of social currency that comes with being surveillance when you're off, especially when you're offering it up willingly to an audience online, it sort of incentivizes people to surveillance themselves. Like half the time we're doing the government's job for them and like offering up things about ourselves that literally nobody's asking for. And so I think it's a big way that surveillance has changed, and that like we've been convinced and become compliant in like offering up every single part of our lives. I mean, some people even track every single thing they eat in their phones and like post what I eat in the days, room tours, apartment tours. Like you're inviting everybody with internet connection into your life, including the state, which is kind of scary.
I'd like to add that you if you want to like get a job, you have to have a LinkedIn. You know, you have to have like a resume, and you have to show off all the connections you have, and be able to network and have proof that you know or met this person. Because I know like it's very easy to stalk somebody through LinkedIn. Like I've had it happen to me. Like, I'm literally like ridiculous as that sounds. So, but like LinkedIn is how I got my current job. You know, like our modern job boards aren't working. it's like suspicious if you meet someone and they don't have an Instagram that you can see. You can't have a job without having a phone. That's our access to you. Like it's very like strange how like we've just like let this happen to us. Like we've just accepted like this is what we need. Like this is what we have to do or it's like make money. Like we're very comfortable with selling ourselves. And even though we know like at some level like all of these social medias make money off of our habits and like scanning our photos and stuff. Like we do like I still use them.
Yeah, like we're selling ourselves. We feel like it's an honor to be bought online. Like the more attention
that you just really can't escape it. You can't you kind of have so many opt out and you literally can't. It makes you feel like mythology of consent. It's like, yeah, it seems like we've consented to this level of surveillance, but like have we if like our like very existence, like are the things we like a job, like you get that to provide for yourself. If that requires you to be on some type of social media to be available 24/7, yada yada yada, like you don't it's not an environment like you don't know what you're getting into. You don't know what they're gonna do with that information. So it's like every time we say yes, like or like I agree terms of agreement, I click it, not reading it, like I don't know.
Speaking on that, like precisely, I would say for a general term, the state is actively trying to corral our energy towards an ultimate, maybe like global centralism. I'm trying to say that. And I think it's really prevalent to be aware of how we can combat that gradually basically forcing space.
I get what you mean. It's like can't even there's something that stops accepting cash. Yeah. Like even that way. Yeah.
Let's say, certain people. If you were to actually read all the terms and agreements of everything you've ever signed, you take a lifetime. All the time.
Yeah, I think looking at it in a more
Oh no. Okay, so someone's computer probably died or something, but I don't know, really quickly, like if you guys, I know that the hybrid format is a bit difficult to work with, but I mean, I'm still interested in discussing the book. So if you guys want to do that like ourselves, I'm interested in doing that. And whoever is here, like I'm down, but no pressure. Like if anyone here would like to like step out, please feel free to do so. But yeah, I don't know. Is there anything that was like coming to mind for you guys or like that like was also brought up by some of the things that we were picking up from what people were saying? Um, oh, in the chat.
Um, I Well, I've been I couldn't really hear, so I was kind of in and out of like,
Yeah.
but just like looking at what you were saying, that's really interesting. Like, and I'd never like seen that with like the bots and stuff. Yeah, I'm just like reading that. Yeah, and it's interesting because like I feel like people talk about like I don't know, even just with like Twitter discourse, like people talk about like, oh, this is COINTELPRO and like blah blah blah. And like I feel like also like a lot of like I don't know, it's like I don't know. Like yeah, I feel like it feels really oh, um like it seems like things feel really like fragmented right now just because I feel like a lot of the like kind of like divides are like so like out in the open and just like on like that's like public facing is just like what I'm thinking about. But I don't know. I also kind of lost where the conversation was, generally speaking, right now. So
Yeah.
We got kicked off the Zoom. Can you guys hear okay now?
Uh, yeah, we can hear, but the camera's off.
Hmm.
We could break off. Is that all right?
But
Yeah, I'll just do it on the. Maybe I just shouldn't talk. Maybe that's what this is.
Yeah. I've been saying this for a long time. Topic point, but if you're not scared of surveillance, you should meet a high schooler because the amount of shit we dig up on our teachers in like 5 minutes with a first and last name. Like, yeah, it's kind of scary.
We had, when I was in high school, we had this English teacher that everyone knows. Honestly, he gets like a lot of credit for them. My favorite radicalization taught us a lot about like this industrial concepts. But he was like almost an Olympic gymnast and then but like on ACL and we found his book with videos of him teaching at like the Olympic stuff. So
First, we were planning on hiding in our person's house and found his address online. So he has his wife's number. I know it's just.
Okay.
Who made these lemon buns?
that was me.
Yes, okay. Would you like to repeat again?
Yeah, sorry guys.
I was just gonna say that, I mean, since the success of the infiltration of the Black Panther Party, infiltration is a practice that's like only increased, right? Like I know, in Israel, like the Israeli government has sent people, to pretend to be Palestinian to like go in and get information. After 9/11, the US government was having people go undercover and pretend to be Arab and Muslim and go into mosques and join in on their community. And actually just like here in Columbus, like 4 years ago, I think, there's a like a far right anti-Muslim group, and they he was such a like pillar of like the Muslim community. He was like a part of it for like 10 years before people realized who he was. Because he had like I don't know, gun parts or something shipped to their office. Yeah, so it's like interesting to read because I mean like all of these practices have like only increased, and it's like it's just like interesting. We read about it and we're like, that's so crazy, but like it's like actively happening and more and more. Yeah.
I think that's a great point.
Okay, so on that end, I suppose I want to say, I'm kind of conceptualizing the idea of people see my question, the need to abolish private property towards communism. It seems to me like part of that is that what we like, I would describe it as, at least it seems possible that maybe there are ways that like what we think should be our private life isn't actually the focus as much as like what we can like collectively organize towards. Like we're all different and we each contribute in different ways. But I kind of think it's like to me it's a question of like we can kind of imagine that in a way everything is already known about us. And there are secrets. And I guess I'm wondering, for one, like it seems to me like if there is something to hide, then what it is like our participation and interest in how we imagine that we can involve in impactful organizing. And that's different for everyone, but like it kind of seems to me like most of these ideas aren't really any of us. Like, we're building on what people have already brought forward, and it's been popular conception that have like grown. Built and evolved. So I guess if we talk about the panopticon and how like surveillance is everywhere, we kind of fix ourselves. And I guess what I'm wondering is essentially it's like I don't know if everyone agrees with this, but I would frame it in terms of like, well, it seems like what we need is some version of essentially like revolutionary insurgency. And not for the sake of like some glorification of that, but like the true organization that it requires, which is getting infiltrated and it's surveilled. It's like where so I personally see it as like I'm not all saying that people should put themselves into more types of danger, but I kind of think that we're all already in grave danger, and that's not the same for everyone, but it is different. But I'm not so clear on what the difference is when it comes to like are we protecting what I'm not myself super I can't see exactly what it is that we're trying to protect from happening by not sharing parts of ourselves. Like, there are parts of myself that I don't share that I am not clear on if I should not share them, or if it might actually be more helpful for there to not be some type of private life that I'm like something to hold on to. Yeah.
Could you remind us of your name again, please?
It's Indigo.
Not a question of having things to hide, but I do think that we don't. It's more of providing unadulterated access to ourselves without the consent of it, and it being used as a currency that we don't get to buy it. So there's a difference between like being okay with like having someone come into like I guess like I don't know if I friendship somebody and turns out they were wrong at the time. Like I don't feel like I guess I feel like I lost something. But you know that privacy is constant privacy is sensitive. But at the same time, I don't think that it's right that our existence be used as like a pawn or a tool to further some sort of gain. I think our willingness to be open to use against us to further suppress those ways. And I think it's very fair to be specific to that.
Yeah, I think building off of that as well, like socially, like this, while the idea of privacy is like weaponized by capitalism, I do think that privacy creates a threshold for intimacy. Like my sister, I feel more intimately close to her because she knows more about me. She knows things that other people don't know about me, and maybe I don't want them to know about me, but her knowing these things allows us to be closer and sort of gives me this control over who I can be close with, who I like want to know these things about me. And I feel like in sort of getting rid of this like threshold for intimacy, we feel close to nobody. Everything to really know everything about them. But from a social like interaction perspective, privacy does help sort of enhance relationships. And like when I first meet somebody, they don't know as much about me, but we start to feel closer as we share things about ourselves. And that's a really beautiful process, I feel like, to engage in with somebody else. But if you can just scroll through somebody's entire life and never have that gradual buildup of closeness, I feel like we're starting to rob ourselves of like the opportunity to build trust and to also build community in this, like, I don't know, process. I see. Yeah. My favorite team in the people who worship and like at the home. For example, like one thing that I've been studying in anthropology was actually using your home as with bodies of professors in the ground beneath the home. And it wasn't to create, it wasn't to exclude or deny someone's partnership. It was just that the tie that I have to this space, like, it's just a relationship that I have with the earth and this part of the earth specifically. And so that those who I do need enter in my home, like I consider them part of that space. But I don't think, like you said, like it's still a little bit more part of choice who you have relationships with. So I think of course, like as we work hard to build. But I think infiltration of faculty is so harmful. To be maybe not like hyper aware, but suspicious of things that having infiltrators. Because even if the infiltrator is never uncovered or doesn't even find information, like once they are uncovered, it's like the chaos and motivation that follows that also really. And it's also that like simple feeling of betrayal. Yeah. And like bringing it back to the book and some like other forms of media around the Black Panther Party, they really do focus on this idea of like the betrayals that happened within the party, even if it wasn't infiltration. Instances of like sexual assault within the Black Panther Party that created division and created betrayal like within members of parties. So betrayal can occur without infiltration, but infiltration I feel like takes it to the highest degree and like sort of destroys so many people and like the fabric of a community. And, like everything has like this insidious vibe of it that we're like everything was a lie and everything was a manipulation tactic. And it does have the capacity to really create a lot of harm. And I think in recognizing history, it's also made a lot of people hesitant. And like, the FBI was tapping phones. And back then, phones were connected to the wall. Now
Recording in progress. Recording in progress.
So like, even if they're not sending a physical person in to infiltrate their communities, like, it's pretty easy.
I wanted to tie this a bit back to race a little bit because a lot of this surveillance measures even like the facial recognition technology is modeled with Black and brown faces in mind. And it's going to be a weird segue to that. There's this ridiculous get. I think it's a great example where it's like I know there's this Tom Hanks and there's this he bonds with the host and the other contestants over their shared like beliefs.
Yeah, go ahead.
The recording's in progress.
They shared belief that there's a government conspiracy against them and that their lived experiences are like lining up. And so the gag is that you have this white man and this Black man like bonding over something that the audience takeaway should be like, oh, well, that's like completely ridiculous. But if you think of even just like the very fear and thought of I'm being surveillanced, breeds this sort of paranoia. We don't have the ability to turn to each other and be like, that's actually a real thing. I'm experiencing that too. I can't quite put why. But this history does because you can see, well, if they were tapping the phones back then, God knows what they're doing now. But that's not something that a stereotype should, or like hypothetically, like that's a act of destabilization internally will take away from people connecting with one another. So I wish that we had a better solution or ideas for how to escape surveillancing, but I think the first thing is connecting, and maybe that is part of like who we let in our circle, what we put online, how we believe other people, or how we even see the way trauma can in fact like impact the legacy in organizing and revolutionary work, or how we bring that trauma and that paranoia, whatever you want to call it, to the table with new connections.
That makes sense. Because like when you were, I forget who brought up paranoia at like, oh wait, it was that talked about how like, you know, like I don't know. Basically, in some, it's just like paranoia is protection, like to a certain extent. When it's like, it is important for there needs to be like a because of the hyper surveillance, there's also a hyper vigilance on the part of like the working class, like the oppressed and targeted groups, like, and it also just, it extends so far, like we're thinking a lot about phones, but like it made me think too a little bit about how even like the medical industries, like there's like heavy surveillance and like I think that it's not like the ability to get technology to recognize Black and brown faces and then send a missile their way absolutely rests on like biology and like an understanding of that. And so it's the ways that like people are reduced down to like biological parts or like severed from like the soul of it in order to like, and yeah. No, it's, I don't know. Even when you go grocery shopping, you have security cameras.
Yeah.
Like.
Let's tie this question about surveillance to the discussion question about what does artwork have to offer revolutionary movements, and just like an illustrated history, like for the value of that. I think about I haven't read it yet. It's on my to-read list, but Babel by Armstrong, and it's about how translated words and language is used as a tool of the colonizer. So when you look at like I think it's 1985, I was actually from 1985 and then 75 the band. But when it's like double speak, when we start changing words to lessen their impact, you know, like well, we can't say like sex on TikTok, we say spicy. You don't say murder or suicide, like self like left the child, something like ridiculous.
Yeah.
Unalive, yeah. You know, so like we start changing these words to make them sound softer and not have like the full impact of what they should have on us. It's easier to shrink the impact it has on us by that way they can control narrative. The same way they're talking about the flower massacre. You know, they say hundreds of Gazans have lost their lives instead of killed. Just saying killed straight up. Like, who are you censoring that for? If it's supposed to be grown adults reading it, they're choosing to censor the words to lessen the impact. And that goes hand in hand with surveillance, the language that we use, not just watching information, but changing how it's communicated. And so what I think graphic novels have to offer is that it brings an impact back to those words. When images are shared, it brings impact back to the words. And you know, you're seeing the life of someone grow up, and then they are killed. You know what killing means. You know what the weight of it has on a life and the people around them. You see like the shocked faces. And because we're humans and because we are pattern seekers, we look at those images and they look back at us. So I think that being able to have images and moving speech, like movies and you know, like the Vietnam War, like that's like the first effective major like war protest. That's when the Americans started changing their mind because we could see what death meant to look like on the screen. We could see what a soldier dying on the screen. We could see their torture because we could see it like face to face. It wasn't happening over there, now it's happening in here in our homes. And I think that's something, I think that helps to combat, like, it helps us to validate our paranoia. It combats surveillance because we now are able to, you know, like, censoring an image, you can use your imagination at the very least to fill those gaps. Or if there's an image that gets deleted and it's very quickly censored, you still have that image lingering in your mind. So I think the moving word and seeing other people is something that we definitely like to combat that. And I think that's why illustrated history is really important. Illustration is really important. And I think it also is accessible, especially if you, you know, I think part of our surveillance is like the lessening of media literacy. I think people are being taught to question what they see less, and just read less critically. And I think images help with that because art evokes emotion sometimes in a way that, you know, you have to learn to read, not necessarily so much to see, you know, in most cases.
I think especially on translation really reminded me of like a problem in like my home country, Morocco, which is that anything that's worth reading, anything that's academic, smart, is in French. If you are not fluent in French, you're uneducated. And you can't access this world of art that is so integral to understanding our own history. Content about Moroccan history is in French. And I think that colonizers are able to use not only language, but also media and literature as tools against us, and sort of to also de-radicalize these memories of certain figures. I worked at Target. I walked into my break room on the first day of Black History Month, and there was a sign that said "Fight like Malcolm X." I don't know who the fuck you guys think Malcolm X was. I don't think he was shopping at Target. And so it's sort of like in this 21st century, like, you know, just constant, you know, eating of media and words and opinions, and it's just like all being thrown at you. The ruling class has sort of taken advantage of that to sort of de-radicalize the memories of a lot of these very radical people. And I think that also reading this book was pretty refreshing, is that in that it was pretty unflinching in its acknowledgement of violence in the Black Panther Party and how that can be used as an effective tool for liberation, and how they weren't afraid to embrace violence in a way that was, you know, that met with what they were trying to do, and also some of the shortcomings that people came across. And while we were talking about this before we got started, the book ends on a sort of not great note. I really did appreciate in this book how it was sort of like unafraid to look at the true radical history of these people, because a lot of it's like it's getting erased more and more. Like we're watering down the names of fucking Black Panthers. Like Target should not be embracing Malcolm X. Sorry, that's a sign that something is very wrong here. And like putting that in the break room for their workers to see. Fight like Malcolm X. Like that's kind of almost disrespectful in a way. Like you're telling me, your worker, to fight like Malcolm X, I should kill you.
Like the way that like you can like we've gotten to such a point within the like economic and human relation cycle, like so deep into liberalism. It's like it can take such like people who are truly radical and doing something against the system, and it can like represent it, and it repackages the history and like sanitizes it. And it's like even radical, like this is a radical work, and like it's even allowed to be published in a world where it's like technically we're not giving our consent to anything. So it's like they're in mass, the art that is made about radical figures is sanitized, but the ruling class feels so safe in the fact that they can represent most of this information to the masses, that like these radical pieces are allowed to exist and like not, and like because they know that not enough people or yada yada yada. Like we have the general public's opinions swayed so far this way, they're so diluted this way that we can literally swirl things in their face of things that should awaken them and get them like motivated to make change. Like I mean, how many of us had pictures of Martin Luther King Jr. in our like middle schools, and like these were places that, at least in my experience, they were oppressing the Black and brown students. They were being extremely sexist. They were teaching us not to think, but to like, it's like the banking method. It's like you just regurgitate the data, like it's not useful information. I don't know, it's interesting. And it's like, okay, how do we move away from like the like this repackaged history? How do we get more people to like view the history and like perspectives that are closer to reality?
Yeah, no, I think that's my cousin, like she was unsatisfied, like she studied education, she was like so dissatisfied with how like children are being taught that she decided to just start her own like preschool. And like thankfully she had saved us some money to do so and knew enough people and was able to have the knowledge to write grants, but that's not something that's accessible to everybody, you know. It's also that the fact that there were parents who wanted to send their kids there too, to put their trust in that, and because she was involved in the community that they did. I think and like how the Black Panther Party wanted their own like just programs to supplement that. I think that's something that we also start looking into too. Like how are we going to teach the future? But they don't teach kids to read phonetics. They teach them to just memorize words. There are children who, like, if you show them a new word, they won't know how to read it out loud. And like that's so scary. You know, there are kids who can't read cursive. They stopped teaching cursive years ago. How are they going? I mean, like, thankfully there are books that have been digitized into like different fonts, but like that's kind of crazy. Like if like they haven't like picked up a manuscript or something, and they're unable to read it, they might even be able to read their own like grandparents. I think finding ways to like invest in the education of children is something like really important. I also think that's the reason why like I like this being a graphic novel, because again, even if a child can't read, they can still understand like the impact of like what the pictures are being shown. And that's a trend that is being noticed. There's like a lot more graphic novels for like middle schoolers and teens because of the power of picture work, because it is truly just so much more engaging to people who just don't consider themselves readers or don't have reading fun. I think that's another way to make learning more accessible.
Also, like most kids, they have an Apple product in their hand before they have a book in their hand. So of course, like things that are visual are going to capture them because that like releases more endorphins or dopamine or whatever. Like they can connect to it much quicker than in it. Like again, like I remember somebody was talking about horizontal versus vertical relations. Okay, yeah, because like that's what it's feeling like. It's like the I don't know art like this can help interrupt the way that like our younger generations are starting to like vertically relate to everybody rather than like horizontal.
Yeah. I think another aspect of that too is going back to community programs. So many parents put an iPad in front of their kids because it allows them to be able to work, it allows them to be able to do maintenance around the house. It sucks that like we can afford like physically to have a child, but just not like mentally or emotionally. You can make money, but all of your time and work is consumed with your job. Sometimes and prevents that being with your child. Like again, it really is just like luck. If I look back at my life, I was just lucky for my parents to have found a daycare that taught you to read. They were lucky that I went to the school that had invested in the after school care programs because we were in a low income, primarily Black neighborhood, and our principal worked her ass off to get that for us. But like and I was lucky enough to drive me. So I think it's also like what kind of resources do we give to like ensure that the children like are able to critically think. Like I had a critical thinking class in middle school. Like I thought that was normal, but that's actually insane. But like, and it's like, how do we continue to support the people who do these things like on their own level? Because there's like always that one teacher who, like, God bless them, is breaking their back to actually be supporting the kids who are falling behind, or like actually like supporting the librarians who are like going above and beyond their pay grade. I think that's an angle that as time goes on and as I work, like coming from like a family of like teachers or people who didn't grow up with an amazing education system, is like how can I ensure that my nieces and nephews get the same like everything else that I did, or how not even like my own nephews, but just like any child that I come across time have those opportunities.
Speaking of what children are not being taught, they should. And it's true that some schools, the OSU Michigan rivalry, those students are residing in the state, skip over Michigan.
I have
that's ridiculous. I think it's an example of like energy is focused for children. Like I mean, I've seen a lot of offensive and outrageous things, but I was walking close to campus and there's a store, certain OSU here, and there's a store that just says, Jesus hates Michigan. And I mean, that has, that kind of formed me. I'm just like, this is what people have, all the important things that we discuss here and elsewhere. People don't emphasize that, but that's, someone had the time, energy, and soul to serve that said that. Pretty crazy.
Now I know what people mean about using the Lord's name in vain.
And even like I'm not this person myself, but like this figure that since it's love everything, and you do his name goes trivial.
Yeah, more energy is put towards slapping red X's over all the M's on OSU's campus than towards like going to a class about like a sociology class or going to like your pre-read that actually teaches you something about maybe like another culture. Like, yeah.
So we planned to end this around 6:30. So I wanted to see, does anyone have any final thoughts that they would like to share? That they haven't yet done. So yeah.
What's discussed here. I would say it kind of seems like it's a meta critique of sports and also media.
Yeah.
As if we, like I would say, on the basis of a form of like an expropriation that produce like ethnic rivalries that this empire like creates or crafts to like its benefit or other benefit. Yeah, and especially the sanitization. Like I think that particular word, as far as propagandizing people like through the films, like a lot of films that are coming out, they're completely changing the whole story. Like they get the tiniest pieces of it that are even like somewhat approximately accurate. Then they take it and twist it all the way up to make it seem like people were not what they were like. And to me, that's like they're preventing organization. Like they're trying to keep people from seeing that it is up to us to make something happen. So yeah, I guess.
I was talking about the impact of the Black Panther Party, and I think it's very interesting how it just inspired a lot of other people within and outside of America to mobilize. I learned about the Lavender Panthers, they were a group of queer people in San Francisco who were like, okay, we need to, if we want to fight back against like, you know, like hate crimes, we need to arm ourselves. It's a very interesting, I was just reading up on it, it's very interesting. I think that the leader specifically, like it's just a very interesting story about all, I think, or maybe they had like a cautionary tale or like as well, how that ended out about giving one person too much power. But thinking back to just like the more I learned about like my family's history about or just like the history of Jamaica, which I've always known, but kind of like pushing people, like the new Bob Marley movie pisses me off. Pisses me the fuck off. Because like about the sanitization, like sanitizing, they removed oh my god, I can't remember his name. Peter. Yeah, they removed him from the movie because Ziggy Marley is a Zionist. He was Peter Tosh was an avid supporter of Palestine. He's completely irritating, but he's like a main figure in Bob Marley's life. He didn't include his philandering either, but like even just his more like radical aspects, just completely sanitized because one of his. I could get into the Bob Marley, just the whole Marley camp, whatever. But yeah, like it's very frustrating to see a country with such a rich history. My country constantly be sanitized to nothing more than a place for good vibes. You know what I mean? And to watch that happen time and time again, like it makes me, and like some of my dad's friends have started writing their own histories, like of Jamaica or of Rastafarianism, or just like from their perspective. And so reading books like these makes me like wonder kind of like what would I hear about Jamaica if the country wasn't so like ashamed of itself, or the government wasn't so ashamed of people. You know?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like what you touching on, like the history of the Black Panthers. I know, like for us, like we can just, I know that like some of our guidelines within like membership is modeled after like the Black Panther Party and their set. And then like even just like not too long ago, I learned about like the Polynesian Panthers, which was like out in New Zealand, I believe. And it was a group of like Polynesian folks that was like standing up against like the oppression and everything out there, like in New Zealand and like Australia, like within that area. And they modeled like a lot of what they did like immediately after the Black Panthers. So that was like around the 70s, I believe it was. So it was like right around the time the Panthers were like still like really doing everything. So I think their influence is still felt in some way, shape, or form, like everything.
So as we close out, I just wanted to echo something that Madison said. Something we've all touched on is writing and taking accounts and being able to recall our own political history, our own radical thinking. I know that Columbus, in general, organizing historically has had difficulties with being able to recap what previous organizations have done, what previous revolutionaries have done. So it's really important, even if you're just writing about your daily life or something that you did or how you participated in an event, it's so important to keep a record of that because you have no idea who might find that useful in the future, even if it is something private in a journal that you intend for no one to ever see. I just want to tell you how important that is. But thank you all so much for the way you participated in this conversation today. This is the sort of work we need everyone to be doing, and that even touches on that critical thinking, the way that these conversations might shape education, the way they might shape other community members, even the way we connect with other members of other generations. I know that's kind of been a big thing here is intergenerational connections and how we learn from one another. We do have one activity, if the whiteboard is available, and we have markers. Do we?
I'll go get that.
Okay, much appreciated. So kind of connecting to our opening question of how you're connecting with the activity. We were wondering if you'd be willing to write out or share ways in which you can draw lessons or thoughts from the Black Panther Party legacy and how you might be implementing those lessons or morals in your own activities. And then we'll just kind of keep that, I guess, maybe up at the front. We were hoping that maybe we could take a picture of it and then include it in a zine that we will be working on. People or artists have been submitting comics and stuff related and inspired by this book. We're hoping we can compile it together and then share it out on Instagram and our newsletter.
In a circle before we start to go.
Yeah, if everyone's okay with being photographed. Okay.
Just a couple updates before we head out. Wanted to give Yasmin a chance to talk a little bit about JUST and PLM-JUST, and I can talk a little bit about the book club before we break off. March book of the month, for those who are interested, is The Right to Sex by Amia Srinivasan. So yeah, Stephanie has it pulled up. And yeah, I'm part of Hardcover Hotties Book Club, and for those of you who aren't familiar, we meet monthly to talk about works related to like monthly heritage months or just worldly happenings, and meet in spaces like these to talk about what we read about, with lots of fun stuff throughout the month, to get people engaged with the works and yeah, think critically and to be connected with each other. So yeah, it's been so fun working with y'all this month. Literally so awesome. So I'll give you a chance to chat about
Yeah, so JUST is a community organization here in Columbus that has been around since 2020, so that makes like 4 years. And we do a lot of different types of community work. So we do community serves every other Saturday on Sullivan Avenue, where we have like food and clothing and hygiene products like Larry touched on earlier. And we also do work around people like affected by state violence. Providing support for those families, things of the sort. Yeah, and we also do like we formed a group called PLM, Palestinian Liberation Movement, back in October, and in that we do work around Palestine, and we have coming up tomorrow evening at the city council meeting. We have an action to get a resolution that they've been promising us for like 5 million years, but I don't know, they think they're like big and they like are too good for that anyways. And yeah, and should I touch on what's next?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We have a teach in series that's on Palestinian and Black solidarity that's going throughout the month of March. Our first one is on the 6th this week. And then we have a serve on the 16th, a feed the streets on the 20th, a book club on the 25th. And yeah, that's what we've got.
Do you know what the JUST Book Club book is?
Yes. Kind of a long title. Yes, so for the month of March, we're atmospheres of violence, structuring antagonism, and the trans/queer school for the month of March.
Awesome.
I don't know if you had heard of No Name.
Yes.
The book that they're reading is Baron Kuhn by Zora Neale person.
Cool. No Name Book Club also meets here, which is awesome. Yeah, and all the events that Yasmin just mentioned are on the little handout. And we'll post them on the story and stuff. Yeah, and then if you guys would be willing, yeah, write a little note on the whiteboard as you head out, and yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna share one like fact that I learned really recently, which I think would be fun to know ahead of the city council meeting. Is the city has been trying to have efforts in like polling and discussing with the Black and Brown community. That's what they're saying about efforts that the city can have with racial equity. And so instead of doing that, they have decided to go forward with a $2 million project in re-erecting a Christopher Columbus statue. They are thinking of putting it in a basement to symbolize the way that we are climbing and walking above our former legacies. So that $2 million will go towards remaking the statue that was already thrown in the river, by the way, and then polling citizens of Columbus and how they might feel about this statue. Again, I feel like throwing it in the river the first time was kind of enough, but
Wait, are they doing the poll after they spend the money for the statue?
so they're not being super clear on like, I don't know if they've procured the statue yet or what, but it's just this idea of like, even in general, like it's unethical to try to like target a population, not really give them any benefit or reward, steal like their thoughts, voices, and feelings, use that research and try to implement policy or something. But yeah, $2 million is going towards that statue as opposed to anything else. So let that fuel your voice as you go to city council tomorrow.
To add on to that, a reminder, and also maybe something that you might, is that the city council president promised us like some type of statement, and instead he wrote a Substack essay, think piece on Hamas is evil. So yeah,
which is crazy.
Yeah, so picture it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have. Oops.
One sitting, one standing.
Should we all get like closer?
Yeah.
That would be nice. Should I?
Not the Zoom. I'll kneel.
Here, all in one too. Oh. Okay, look at a camera. They're both so close together, I don't see. Okay. I'm gonna get a picture of that. That's so cute.
Thank you all.
Whose phone is Larry? Oops. I just.
We can now.
Okay, Morgan, I think I'll stop it now.
I think I call joint efforts to oppose the proposed widening of Castle and Fifth Avenue. I think time and time again, the study has shown that widening streets not, reduce traffic